Hi folks, Marty here. Today we're going to take a wee look at the painting that we've been working at for the last few weeks. Just showing the different seasons. We've done spring, summer, autumn, and now we're kind of going to have a look at doing this as a snow scene. So what I'll do is I'll get my pencils together, and then I'm going to sketch in the cottage kind of farmhouse we've been working on. So I want to, you can use your tracing of this here, or else just do it by freehand. You probably know this inside out by now. So I'm just my horizon line, and then this is the bank, which the trees are going to be on the top of. So if you remember all those tree trunks and so on. And then the farmhouse was about here. So because this is a snow scene we're going to do here, I've got to kind of plan it just a little bit different. You can use your tracing, of course, you know, just to give you a bit of a perspective of the farmhouse, just so you can get that right. But because it's going to be a snow scene, I'm going to have snow on the roof. So it's just a quick rough sketch here. And then it's got the little side bit here. Now, I'm going to do the underside of the roof like this here before I do the actual bit above the roof, okay? And then it's set back a bit like that there. So because it's a snow scene, you've got to kind of make adjustments for snow sitting on the roof of this. And then if that's the underside of the roof running away down like that, perspective wise. So on the top of it's going to be all your snow. So it's going to, and then obviously you're going to have some snow coming down around the sides here as well. And maybe a bit on that side of the roof. Okay, I'll switch to a slightly smaller pencil here because I want to do some of these chimney pots. And remember, they're going to have snow. Well, it depends if the chimney fire's lit. Obviously, there'd probably be no snow there, so it'll melt. So I'll just ignore that for now. And then, if you remember, we had our wee windows, and then they're going to have snow on it as well. And then we had a door here. So at the bottom of that there, you know, you want to kind of give the impression that there's snow lying on the ground there. And then that was the window at the side, if you remember, and had some shutters. And then we could do some snow there as well. And then I think I ended up putting a wee window in here as well, and some of the other ones, so I'll do that again. If you remember, the door was here. If you want, you know, you could maybe put another wee chimney here just to make it a wee bit more interesting. Okay, so that's the cottage kind of roughly sketched in. And do you remember how some bits and pieces here, some bits of timber. And then you had the wee lady out walking her dog, if you remember. Okay, so the trees at the back here, I'm drawing them in kind of heavier, sorry. I'm drawing them in heavier than what I normally would. And that's just to let you see what I'm kind of thinking. some here. And we had a few bushes and so on here. I know it does change a little bit every time we do it, but it's just the way it goes. You just kind of got to go with the flow of the thing. So this is going to be we're going to kind of do the path in here. I know there's going to be a lot of snow coming down, and this is normally just the bank up here running down to the path. So this is all going to be head in with the colour we're going to mix up for the snow, and then we'll do some reeds and so on coming up here that will kind of give out the snow treatment as well. So obviously this area up here, it's not going to have leaves. It's going to be a lot of branch work. So because there's no leaves on the tree, you're probably going to see more of that house than what we did in the previous couple of demos. Make it 3 windows at the top there, maybe another window down here. We laid outside it. Okay, that's as much detail as we probably want to put in at this stage, but we'll come back and we'll work with those trees a bit later on, because we want to paint these in and show the trunks, and then have some snow sitting on the top of them. But that's something we can do a wee bit later on in the demo. Okay, I think we'll just work with that. So brushes I'm going to use today will probably range from the biggest brush I have there, 16 and a 12, and maybe a couple of other wee brushes for a bit of detailing. Okay, I like to start with that big brush because it's a good way just to get your washes and your mixes all going. Right, so because we're going to be using what I call my snow technique today, we want the sky and we want these buildings to be darker than probably what looks good at the beginning, but when we start to use the snow effect later on, it'll all start to make sense. So here we go. For the sky, I'm going to mix up, I want the sky to be like a warm colour, believe it or not. So I'm going to go from a light red and then put a wee bit of that cobalt into it. Obviously there's a lot of different ways you can do this. You can go with a more cooler kind of route, but I like doing it like this because I think the snow sits better on it. Okay. And we'll just do a wet on dry here. What we got to watch out for is when we get down to the roofs of the houses, that we try not to paint over the bits that we're trying to preserve. Let me switch to a smaller brush for a wee bit more control there. I'm going to add a wee bit more of the cobalt into it, just as we get down towards that horizon, or well, not so much the horizon, but the beginning of the those roofs. I just drop that on down there. Okay. I mean, if you accidentally paint over the bits that you were trying to keep white, there's stuff that you can do at the end. It'll fix all that. Obviously, if you can keep it from being painted over, it'll go a lot easier. Some people would use masking fluid just to protect little bits of white here and there, but you can do that, no problem. But you can also just paint it in with white gouache. So, and then this roof came down here like that. Okay. So I'm going to go back to my big brush again, and I want to just drop in some bits like this, just to make it look there's a bit of cloud working on here. So obviously it's going to be a snow scene, and it'll be currently snowing, so I want those clouds to look a bit snow bearing. I'm just soaking up some of the excess paint here. I'm going to bring that on down because I want to, the trees that I want to do here are going to be wet into wet. I'll just bring that on down to that hill. Okay, so that looks dark enough to me. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mix up a bit of a bluey green colour. What I'd said to go with was cobalt and a bit of burnt sienna. And I'm just going to drop those in like this here. So pretty much wet into wet. Make it a wee bit more creamier, that mix there. And then just always remember, you're running into snow banks here and so on, so we don't want to bring that down too far. But it's trying to make sure that it is strong enough that it's not just going to disappear on us as it dries. Okay, and what I might actually do as well over here, I know when we did the summer scenes and we couldn't see what was going on here because of the trees are in the way, but what I'll do is I'll just drop some in there, make it look like there's some distant trees there. It's also a good way to frame the little farmyard building. Okay, and I'm just going to mop up by touching those little pools of paint at the bottom there. Okay. And I'll dry that off now. Okay, so that's that dried off. So what we're going to do now is we're going to work on the middle area, the farmhouse. So again, you want this to be quite on the dark side, and the reason being, again, is that you're going to be dropping snow over the top of it. So we want a kind of browny colour, sandstony for the brickwork. So I'm just going to add a wee bit of yellow into that colour we had there. See how we get on with that. And what you want to be thinking is, if this was if this roof was covered in snow, as you've all seen before, how it kind of works. The snow will be just hanging right over the edge of those roofs, and that will be the back part of the roof. Let me switch to a smaller brush. Try and keep in mind that everything at the bottom is going to be snow, and it's going to be built up and lying on the ground. It's going to be built up and lying on the ground. Maybe a bit lighter at the front of the house, just to show that there is a difference. Give a wee bit of variation to the wee building at the back here. Maybe try and keep some of that area whiter. It's one of those half doors. Remember the golden rule there about variation. Just drop some wee bits of colour in here and just let it run down there. Okay, I think that'll do. And just a case of gently drying it off there. So that's the little farmhouse mostly done. We're just going to add a wee bit of detail to it at the minute. If you remember before, it had some shutters that were kind of like a green turquoisey. I think we'll maybe just try and stick with that for now. So don't be afraid to go darkish here. And maybe we'll do that back door there dark as well. Just keep these windows and doors quite simple. Give it a wee dry. Okay, so the next bit here is really, it's trying to bring in some shadow into the farmyard house. Just to just to make things stand out. But what I might do here is, I think this scene would look really well if the lights were on. So what I'm going to do is going to get some my wee extra palette there, and I'm going to get some of that orangey colour. So you don't want it to be too shocking in colour, but still bright enough. And then with that half door open, it could be like a little kitchen or something there. Okay, so at this stage what you could do is, obviously if the light's on there, it's probably going to be hitting this area here on the ground, and similar over here. Don't be too fussy with it, just make a bit of a colour mark there. I'll give that a try. The thing I love about doing these winter scenes is that the snow effect at the end just really covers a multitude of mistakes or things that you're not too happy with. It's just a case at this stage trying to do as much work as you can before you get to that. Okay, so snow basically is it's not as white as you would think. There's normally a bit of a colour to it. First of all, just make sure your palette is nice and clean. So we want a lot of clean water here. I don't want it to be polluted with any other colours, or it's harder to work with. So I like to go for nice translucent colours here, and remember, cobalt blue is very translucent and works well, and a little bit of alizarin crimson. So I want this to be on the cool side, so I'm adding more of the cobalt blue into it, and I don't want this to be too strong. Okay. Maybe a wee bit lighter. Kind of hit and miss, you know, just leave bits, some bits white and then some bits with a blue. We do the same up here, just give it a wee bit of a blue tint to it. So just trying to get the timing right here, because what I want to do is I want to drop in a bit of a stronger colour just underneath this here area here. It makes it look like the actual what I want to do here is add a bit of shadow just under here, so a wee bit stronger. I'm going to put some of my lavender colour in here just to give it a wee try. Just trying to make sure this is not too strong. Okay, and then you just drop it down like that. I'm putting a bit of shadow underneath this area here as well. And then a little bit up here. Needs to be a wee bit darker here, I think. Okay, and what you can do is just take the excess off your brush and you can just soften that up a little bit. These bits where it's a wee bit too harsh, you can just lift some back out again like that. Okay, I think that will work now. Okay, I'll just dry that off. Basically, snow is not normally white. It has all different kinds of colours reflected on it, depending on what is around it. But I always like to use those colours because it gives me a good realistic take on it. Okay, so I'm just checking my house now and I'm making sure I've done everything I need to do. The only thing that's going to make this house stand out now is the shadow colour. So if you remember how we made that up, it was cobalt blue and a bit of alizarin crimson. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to see, so there's going to be a bit of shadow here obviously because it's this part of the house is sat back. Let me drop that down across here. And then we put a bit of shadow down here. And it's going to have shadow underneath the roof there. And then we'll have a bit of shadow here. So all these wee touches just help to make it look more three-dimensional. It also helps to make it the snow on the roof stand out a bit. And then I'll just run a bit along here. And a bit where the windowsills would be. Okay, so and then what I'll do is I'll put some bits and bobs down here, just where those bits of wood and so on. Maybe a bit under this window here. And then what I want to do is I want to do now is what I want to do now is put a wee bit of shadow just down where that chimney would be there. Okay, I'll just dry that off. Okay, so I'm just taking a wee look at that and just thinking, make sure everything's looking right. That there needs painted in, that's the brickwork for that chimney. Maybe a bit darker here. Just use your brush just to soften up anything that's too harsh. And those chimney pots. They're normally more of a terracotta. So that's my light red, and my yellow ochre I would normally use for that kind of thing. You want this to be dark, so it'll contrast against the snow. You put one up here as well. And then a few wee marks here and there, just to indicate some brickwork. Don't overdo it, obviously, just wee touches, just to indicate that there's stonework there rather than overstating it. Maybe a few around the front. Just a bit random. Okay, so I'm looking at this now and I'm thinking, is there anything else I want to do? Is it as dark as I'd like it? Okay, so at this stage, I think what we'll do is we'll just begin to work on this area, and then we'll just bring it down into the foreground here. So again, it's just trying to keep that palette as clean as you can, and we'll continue just to use that bluey, sort of reddy colour there. So there's going to be some shadow up around that farmhouse. So I think we'll just drop some of this in like this. Okay, and now what we want to do is get a good old brush, good big brush, and we'll start working on the banks here. So all hit and miss, you know, just kind of don't be worrying the first bits like that there at all. Just as it, use the side of your brush like this here. Just you're kind of just dragging the brush. Like this. Don't worry if you miss some of the paper, that's exactly what you want. And then obviously it's coming down to the edge here. I'll do that other side as well. Remember, just dragging that brush down. What we're going to do is just vary that colour here and there. We put a wee touch of that alizarin in it. Okay, so this path, you want to show that maybe there's a difference, so maybe just run up one side of it. just took some clean water there and I'm just softening that up a bit like that. So if you have any hard edges that you don't like the looks of, just a clean damp brush and just drag the brush up like that, just to lift it back out again. Okay, I think I'd like to go a wee bit darker down in that foreground there. Okay. And I'll just dry that off now. Okay, so I'm just looking at this here area here, and what I want to do is pull in some slightly darker, just wee touches here and there, broken, kind of hidden found, lost in. So what I want to do here is what I'm doing here is just a little bit of hit and miss, wee bit of lost and found. You could do a wee bit of spatter there as well. So what I did there is just I dipped it into the paint, I spattered some of that colour, and then I went into a drop of water, and then I spattered the water, and that kind of helps to soften it up a bit. Just makes it look like there's a wee bit more texture in that foreground. Maybe we drop that red there, and a bit more water. I'll just let that run a wee second. And then the next bit I'm going to concentrate on is these trees. So we're going to mix up a nice dark colour for that, and that's when we can start to get ready for the snow effect. So I'll just dry that off. And I was thinking another thing you can do here as well that always looks good is you can put some wee fences and stuff in. So what you want to do is mix up, do you remember our tree colour? Burnt umber, ultramarine. So a nice kind of creamy consistency. What we're going to do is we can just add a few posts in here, and just touch it with the old kitchen paper if it's too dark. This helps to add a wee bit of interest. Let me do a few up here as well. Okay, so now we're ready for our main tree here. So ultramarine and burnt umber mixed together give us a nice dark colour. Okay, so just drop those tree trunks in there. just using my rigger now to drag out those branches. Switch to my wee thin rigger for this stage. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to the other side of this painting now, this area here. I'm going to just drop in a little bit of a bit of variation here, just to give that a wee dry off. I think what would work well at this stage is maybe if I give that wee lady a nice kind of warm red jacket, or coat, sorry. Don't forget the wee doggy. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, those little bushes, just going in a wee bit stronger with the colour there to give it a bit of shadow. It's the sort of thing we can come back later on and add our snow effect. A bit of detail on those shutters. Okay, so what I'm going to do here in the foreground, I'm going to just bring in some bushes just to add a wee bit of detail. So again, it's our strong colour of burnt umber and ultramarine. Okay, so just use your riggers at the stage and then just, you know, it's all about those little flicks. Make it all very random and just have a bit of fun with it, really, you know. Okay, because we're going back later on and we're going to put wee bits of white in here, and we're going to put some berries and stuff. Make it all look very Christmassy. Okay, I'm just looking at those trees again up here and thinking I need a wee bit more work done to them. Okay, maybe just a few branches going across the way. It's always good to kind of stand back and have a look at what you're doing, see if there's anything you've missed. And here was a light on this one that I forgot to do. Let me darken the bottoms of those a little bit. So add a wee bit of variation to that. And then I'll bring a wee bit of colour into that. And just some of the just some of the clean water, just to soften any hard edges up you don't like. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just dry that off. Now what I want to do is maybe just bring a bit more shadow into that area. So I'll just clean this off here. And then again, our shadow color, cobalt and alizarin. Maybe a wee bit of yellow ochre into it. And then maybe a shadow across the path. Some of these bits of fencing. And then what you can do is go into your clean water and then just soften up some of those hard edges there. Give that a wee dry. So what we could do at this stage is we could get more of that red colour. I'm going to just do a wee bit of spattering here and there. Just add a wee bit of texture, a bit more spattering here and there. See how I'm just tapping the brush and allowing that there just to do its work. Maybe a few up here. Is trying not to overdo the thing, you know. Okay, so I'm looking up at this house here and looking at the shadows underneath here, and I don't think they're really strong enough. So what I'll do is mix up some more of a shadow colour, cobalt and alizarin. Maybe throw a wee drop of yellow ochre into it just to tone it down a little. Because when we start putting our snow effect on, we're not going to get a second chance to do this. Yeah, I think that looks better. A bit darker under here as well. Just bring that shadow down there. Okay, and maybe a wee bit more of that stronger colour up underneath the snow that's at the top of the chimney. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my eraser and I'm just going to get rid of any unsightly pencil marks that we used at the beginning, just to mop it out. So just a gentle rub like that. You don't want to go too hard into that paper, you'll end up lifting up the surface of the paper. It's amazing how much this actually can clean up the look of your painting. So there's a couple of things we can do now. We can either use, these are like a white gel pen, which will give you a lot of accuracy, or else you can just use white gouache and just paint on bits of snow. I'll do a bit of a combination just to show you the difference. This little pen works better contrasted, so if you're actually going on to something that's quite dark, it'll sit much better. Okay, so that's the gel pen, and here we have the gouache. So I'm going to put a little bit in that little palette there. What I can do is move this closer to my painting. So you want this to be nice and creamy, not too much water in it, and then just begin to, anywhere you think there should be snow building up, maybe a bit along those doors, and do you remember the windowsill? And then the wood you had sitting here, so switch to your finest brush. And there's just a wee light there. Okay, and then I'm just going along all these windows, the window sills, just dropping a bit on here and there. And then a bit along the top of that chimney there. I'll not put any on top of the actual chimney pots themselves, because I'd like to do a snow effect, or sorry, a smoke effect coming out of that. And do some along these bits of old broken down fences. Have some sitting on the top as if it's stone still resting there. Remember, it's all hit and miss, it's just wee touches here and there. And then some on the tops of those little bushes. Okay, so what I'll do now, is switch back to my rigger. I'm going to start dropping in some bits along these here. Think about the way the snow would build up between a branch. Now it just kind of clumps together here and there. That's why we were saying earlier on, the darker you get this background, and the more the snow contrast. And we'll do a few branches like this. Let me just try that wee gel pen again there, just to see if we can. Okay, what I want to do here is get some of that white stuff in here. Trying to keep it thin enough. just using my thumb just to trail some out over there. And what that does, it helps it to sort of blend in a bit better. Okay, and maybe some wee touches here and there. What you can do at this stage is you can just get your finger like that and just drag in some bits here and there, just to add wee bits of texture. Okay, I think we're nearly ready for the messy part. Okay, so this is the messy part of the operation here. So what we want to do is make sure we have enough gouache. And we want to get this just the right consistency. If it's too thick, you'll not be able to do anything with it. And if it's too runny, it'll just go all over the place. So a nice kind of creamy mixture here. And then what I do is get a couple of wee brushes and stuff, wee tools like that. Start in your darkest areas. And you're just basically topping like this here. Just try and keep it all very random looking. And it doesn't matter how careful you are with this, it just gets everywhere, but it is part of the process. What you can do is also just hold it like that and just flick it. And you want to aim around those dark areas. You will lose a bit of detail, but don't worry about it, it's all part of it. Something else you can use is an old toothbrush, and then just get plenty on, and then just you're basically just flicking it like this then. So any dark areas you want to tone down is the way to go. What I want to do at this stage is I want to get an old piece of card. I want to try a bit of dry brushwork like this. So you will lose a bit of detail here and there. So what you can do is you can just go back over that again. Anything that you need to pick out. So see, you're kind of working back and forward with the thing. Just in case of bringing some of those branches back in again. Just here and there, just we lost and found bits. So what I was going to do earlier on was I want to create a bit of a smoke effect. So I'll add a wee bit of water there. And then I'll go into that gouache. Okay, so needs a wee bit of shadow on it. Just grabbing some of that darker colour and just dropping it in the side here. Give quick dry. So what I'm doing, I'm looking at this now and I'm thinking, does the picture make sense? Have I lost maybe too much detail anywhere? And what I'm thinking is the red coat could maybe do a bit more. Of course it's hard to work out what that is, but I suppose it's all part of the impression. Okay, so I'm thinking what's working, what's not working here. And what I think needs to happen is maybe some kind of a shadow coming across this foreground. So go into my clean water, and it's the old cobalt blue and alizarin. What I want to do is just a bit more of that maybe. Okay, and then a wee bit of yellow ochre. Forget to use clean water just to soften up any edges that are too hard. Okay, I'll give it a quick dry off. Okay, I've got this kind of dark area here that I'm not too pleased with. So what I'm going to do is just go and do that with a bit of clean water. Just scrub into it. Just to tone it down a wee bit. Okay, and what I might do now is go back into that gouache again there, and then just give it a few wee bits of snow here and there. The toothbrush is great because you get a finer effect. Maybe drop some down here in the bottom. It's a good way just to tidy up some areas that are too dark or just not working. Helps to pull them back a wee bit, you know. Don't worry if you get the odd lump here and there. You can just tidy that up and then go back in again. Okay, I think that'll do. Do you see what I mean about you always need to go a lot darker than what you think you're going to need, because by the time you start putting this snow effect on, it can pull things back quite drastically. So what I'm going to do now is just quickly dry that off. So I'm looking at this now and I'm just thinking, is there enough contrast? Is there enough, you know, kind of dark areas? And what I'll do is I'll so I'm just going to lead and draw the eye up into the picture. So I'm kind of looking around this and thinking, is there any way I can make those windows stand out a wee bit? So I'm just going to drop in a wee bit of dark stuff like that. So I think all's left for me to do now is sign this. And I'll use a nice bright red colour. So we'll give it a quick dry. So that's it, folks. That's one way of tackling a snow scene. And obviously do this a few times and you'll get a good idea for it. But it's just remembering, try and keep these as dark as you can so as that there's plenty of contrast when you start to put the snow on. So folks, have a wee go at that, and until next week, I'll see you soon.